Welcome. Hello, everyone. Got a great group today. We're excited to have you join us to learn more about the Atlas Workbench. We're going to be starting with an overview, giving you a chance to log on if you want to be able to have it open while you are watching the training, and then we'll dive into some of the details. Let's go ahead and get started. So this is our agenda for today. If you would like PDH credits, there will be a chance at the end of the presentation to click on a link, which will bring you to a PDH survey so that you can get those credits. And the agenda for today is going to, like I said, cover the overview. We want to talk about how the Workbench relates to the other tools that you're using. And then we've got several different topics that we wanted to show you about the Workbench that you may or may not be familiar with. Certainly be gathering your questions as we go. We'll have a chance to ask those at any point, but particularly at the end of that Workbench upload section. We're then going to highlight for you a new feature that many of you may not be familiar with, which is our dashboards, and then end with discussion of potential future questions or topics that would be helpful on the Atlas platforms. So I'm hoping that most of you are familiar with some of the history of Atlas. Atlas began in 2018 and includes three tools. The Workbench is the tool that we're going to be focusing on today, and then we also have the Atlas map and the the Atlas screening tool and the Atlas search tool, which will be combined in the future into the Atlas map. And you can just see on here some of our statistics. It's being used, all three tools are being used, and we're excited that we're getting more users every day. Um, You can go ahead, Tom. So we really want to focus on how to use the workbench, but we want to start with talking about why to use the workbench. So for those who may be less familiar with the workbench side, the workbench is intended to be a data repository. So right now, if you are emailing files to others, if you're uploading them directly to Connect, the workbench is intended to be the location where you upload those final deliverables so that all of the team has access to them. And the reason to do that is because by uploading them to Workbench, you get a more consistent product in that the properties that are associated with your file, the naming convention that's associated with your file, and the location of where that file is stored is consistent. Every time somebody uploads a community impact assessment, for example, it's always uploaded with the same name, the same properties, and in the same location on Connect under that project. And that's really important because it helps other project members find your files, have confidence that they have the most recent or final version of that file, and as we'll look at as we get into the tool, have other information about that file. So instead of only having the PDF, we also have opportunities to put in some key information about the findings of that report or that plan set that are going to help the other team members with the efficiency of their work. This is what we mean when we refer to the data governance. And when you upload something to Workbench, it is stored on Connect. So we don't have a different storage system. We're tied in hand with Connect. But when you upload it to Workbench, it's now accessible on Connect in that correct place, and it's accessible in Workbench. And so you get the benefit, if you just upload it once and through Workbench, you get the benefit of having it accessible in both tools and all the other things that come along with that. So as I mentioned, you've got the benefits of having it accessible on Connect and also accessible on Workbench. And so with that goal, we are encouraging everyone to upload their final deliverable. So this isn't for all the drafts and all the back and forths and comments. This is for that final deliverable. So you know that if it's been uploaded to Workbench, it is the final version, and you can have confidence that you have that. Because sometimes with naming convention and where people put things in the folders, you're not always sure that what you have is the final version. And I have to be honest, Connect can be confusing on where to find things and where to store things. So this just helps take all those questions away for you. Go ahead. We also wanted to point out how Workbench relates to PDN. And this is an effort that we have spent some time on in the last 6 or 8 months in order to really help create a crosswalk for users. So if you haven't been using it recently, you may not have noticed that the Workbench tool now has reference to the PDN activity codes. And as Tom gets into the details of Workbench, you'll see those in many of the different slides. But how that's important is that if you are getting more and more familiar with the PDN and you want to know how to upload or where to upload something on Workbench related to a specific PDN code, you'll be able to find that PDN code through the content search, or you'll be able to find it through looking at some of the tabs in Workbench. And so it's just going to, again, help create that confidence that you are putting the right file in the right location, and everyone else is then going to be able to find it exactly where it should be and in the same place for every project. We've been working with the disciplines really closely in order to identify which uploads should be included in Workbench, how they should be presented, which activity codes should be associated with them, and then all the qualitative questions. So all of the tabs that you see in Workbench have been vetted or created directly by the business teams. And then finally, making sure if you haven't used the Workbench yet, that you know how to get there. So if you're familiar with the map tools on Atlas, you can get to the map tools through several different ways, and it's not project specific. However, the Workbench is unique in that because you are uploading specific project documents, you have to get to it through your Connect site for that project. So you would log into Connect as you typically would, and then after you have gone to a specific project, however you like to get there, then instead of uploading through the gray bars under disciplines, you would go to the final gray bar, the bottom one that says Atlas Tools, and you would click on Atlas Workbench. It'll have you put in your credentials one more time, and then you will be into the tool. So while we transition to the next section of our presentation, if you want to have Workbench open, please go ahead and do that now. And if you have any trouble logging into the Workbench, put your questions in the chat and we'll be answering those as we go.
That was good. Thanks, Teresa. I'll take over. Can y'all hear me? Okay. Just want to make sure that my mic is perfect. So like Teresa said, I'm going to get into a little bit of the basics of Workbench, navigating it, the components of it, navigating through the Workbench, what the different pieces are. So first, I just kind of want to run through the Workbench component. So when you do perform that login function that Teresa mentioned and put in your credentials, you're going to be spit out here to the basic project info page of the Atlas Workbench for your specific project that you have navigated from. So here's just some of the major components. You have the header up there at the top. You have your navigation. You have your main section over here where it says basic project info. That's where you're going to see, regardless of what tab you have open, it's where you're going to see all the information associated to that specific tab, whether it's an upload or a question or any type of project-related data that's associated with that tab. And then you have your left sidebar here. That's how you're going to navigate to any of the disciplines that you're going to be able to interact with. So you can select into any one of the disciplines to upload or answer qualitative questions that are associated with that one specifically. And then there are some additional tools we have down here at the bottom. We just got another one added for the impacts tool, but we have the project commitments there and advanced minimization tracker. So some additional tools that are linked up here on this basic project info page. So like I was alluding to, navigating through the tabs of Atlas Workbench, you're going to select on your tab over here from the left sidebar. We have each kind of each section of tabs underneath kind of a subheader like your general project information, human environment, natural environment. So we can kind of organize them and categorize them to make things easier, better and easier to find and navigate for the user. Once you do select your discipline tab over here on the left, there's a way to you navigate to your specific questions or uploads on the right by selecting these plus minus signs. So they're all automatically going to be collapsed, and you hit that plus and it pops it open. So this is just another way to kind of organize what you're seeing and make it a little bit more pointed to the user, so you know what you're going in to look at instead of just having everything popped open at once. So once you do select those pluses and you expand out that section, you're going to see a host of text, questions, upload controls. So I just want to kind of go through some of the controls that we have in Atlas and the most common ones. So one of the things you heard me allude to it a couple of times are qualitative questions. So in the Workbench, you have the ability to make selections of yes, no on questions. If there are also drop downs that you can select in here. So anything that a specific discipline tab and a specific discipline needs to answer or needs to know about a specific project, they have already been able to work with us and get that question in here, and you can go in and make that selection. So a lot of the times it's whether or not something is required or not, or if something has been performed or done elsewhere. So like if a document's been uploaded into ProjectWise, for instance, like you can come in here to Workbench, and if they want to know, hey, has this thing been completed and is it uploaded in the correct location, even though it's not using SharePoint as its storage location, you can make that selection, and it can be indicated here. The other main control we have is for uploads. So for uploading final documentation and uploading any types of documentation, that's kind of what you're seeing here as 2A through E. And I want to highlight the main document types, if you will, that we have here in Workbench. So Atlas Workbench, if you're familiar with SharePoint, you can create document sets, so you can drop plenty of documents within a folder. So we have the ability using Atlas Workbench to automate the generation of those document sets. That also forces, to go back to what Teresa was saying about data governance, it forces the tagging that the discipline wants to associate to that document set, and it forces the naming convention of that document set, and it already creates it. All you have to do is put your documents, load your documents through Atlas, and they get put into that generated document set. So we have the ability to kind of force that functionality to create document sets. And then some of the other main file types that we do support are PDFs. PDF upload is just one, it's just one document upload. So you upload that document, we have that same data governance enforced on that document upload, such as forcing a naming convention, forcing any tags that might be needed or associated to that particular deliverable. And then it's always going into the same folder location, the same discipline folder or let preparation folder, wherever it needs to go. And as you upload, if you upload over that document, if there's already one sitting there and you want to upload an updated version, it will replace the old version with the new, but it'll still maintain the versioning history on SharePoint for you. A couple of the other ones are DGN uploads and Excel file uploads. They both work the same way. I just described the PDF uploads with the tagging and the keeping of the newest version. And then there are also GIS shapefile uploads. And these files, you can upload your shapefile here and it will get added into the GIS layer associated with that upload, with that control. It'll get added into that GIS layer and supported on to the enterprise layer. So I want to go through another piece of functionality that we have on the Workbench. It's the content search. So as the Workbench is getting more advanced, I guess you could say, and we're adding more disciplines and we're adding more controls in there, we're aligning everything with the PDN so that as it's growing, more things are getting added into Workbench. So it's just becoming more comprehensive. And there's a lot of information in there. So we do have a content search functionality up here at the top left. You can see it in the first screenshot. You select that, and then a search text box comes up. And it's a contained search, so it's anything that it doesn't need to be a starts with type search. So any type of text that you put in there, it's going to return the text within the Workbench that contains that that set of letters, I guess you will, or words. So the type of search, it searches 4 sections of the Workbench. So it goes through every tab and the contents of each tab. And it will be searching on the discipline, and discipline is the name of the tab over there that you see in the left sidebar. It searches the section. So when you're looking up there at the top screenshot, the sections where it says 1, water resource mapping, 2, NRTR, that's your section. So it's searching those collapsible sections within Workbench. And it's also searching your text, so that's the text of the control, the wording of the control. So again, drawing your eyes back up to that first screenshot, it's the first text control is 2EN1 natural resources report, NRTR. So that is what text refers to. It's searching on those, and it's also searching for the name. So there's a forced naming convention, like I mentioned before, for each one of the uploads in Atlas. And what this content search is doing is also searching on those forced naming conventions that we already have set up. So it'll be searching on those names as well, the actual document name that will be associated with the control. So I also want to highlight some requirements, some resources, right? So we have an Atlas resources page, if you all are familiar, on Connect, and we have plenty of resources on here. We have Atlas News, any type of release notes that we've had in the past. I believe we keep the ones from the past year, so Q2, 3, and 4 from the past year. We have the different Atlas links to the different Atlas tools, search tool and screening tool. Like Teresa was alluding to, they're eventually going to become just one Atlas map tool. But for now, we have those 2 separate tools. We have policies, frequently asked questions. We have some training resources here, so you can go navigate to our training site to get some training modules, maybe some specific training, maybe a general training that we already have built out, or videos that we have uploaded for you. And then what I want to highlight is the Atlas deliverable upload requirements. So these upload requirements, I'm focusing on the Atlas Workbench standards document. So the Atlas Workbench standards document contains each upload that is associated with a specific discipline. So it's a document that contains every single discipline that's in Atlas Workbench, and then the uploads that are associated to those, and then the specifics around each one of those uploads. And those specifics being naming conventions, file, the naming convention that's forced, the file type that that particular upload is, if it's required or if it's not required. We have the ability to make a copy and put into the external collaboration folder for external agencies like MPOs and RPOs to be able to view that don't have access to Atlas because they're not on the project team. And then we also have the ability to save to a secured folder if it's a secure upload that we don't want anybody that has access to the project to be able to see. And I just have a couple of screenshots here in the next two slides that show just to kind of show a quick example of what we have. So this is a quick screenshot of the standards document for the merger tab that we have in Workbench. So you can see just kind of some specifics, high level, up there at the top, description, and then we have some of the specifics for each upload and the file type right there. So it'd be better if I could just bring up the document and kind of scroll through for you, but here's just a quick screenshot just to get an idea of what it's going to look like or what it looks like. And then we are in the process of finalizing the development of a standards dashboard. So we're leveraging Power BI to be able to set up a dashboard that displays all of these Atlas Workbench standards for you in an easier, more searchable format. So you'd be able to filter and search up there at the top for anything that you want. You have your category name, which is your tab name, your upload name, that's the text, and then your file names, the type of file type that we have, that's the control type, and then if it's in any one of those other pieces that I highlight, if it's a secure folder, if we're putting in external collaboration, etc. And then we also have a link. We're going to have a link on this dashboard that kind of gives. There's a description kind of at the beginning of the standards document that kind of runs through specifics and high levels of the Workbench itself. So we'll have a link to that here as well. So this dashboard is going to be accessible on that same Atlas resources page that I had a screenshot of before, once we have it complete, and that's and we're currently in the process of finalizing. So with that, I can pass to Jenna to talk a little bit more about some of the other dashboards that we have in Atlas.
Yep. Thanks, Tom. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah.
So like Tom said, we leverage Power BI to turn data into good reporting measures for units, various groups throughout DOT. As Tom and Teresa have discussed, Workbench isn't just a data entry tool. It enforces data governance over key project data points. This makes communication and reporting about project specifics more efficient, accurate, and useful. So once responses and uploads are completed in Atlas, the Atlas business team uses Power BI to visualize and report on that data. Instead of having to search through SharePoint folders, we can now access dashboards that present qualitative and upload data directly from our Atlas database. This connection enables dynamic reporting and analysis of various deliverables. So here we have a couple of examples we'd like to detail that we have built. The first on the upper right is a hydraulics unit project response dashboard that we built for the hydraulics unit. It pulls qualitative and upload data directly from the hydraulics tab in Atlas Workbench, and this helps the unit review responses, track completeness, or filter by project or division. The second one here on the lower right is a categorical exclusions dashboard. It consolidates CE records uploaded through Atlas Workbench and EPU's internal CE documentation spreadsheet. This provides trend charts and metrics for EPU to report on CEs for FHWA. The key here is that Atlas ensures governed, accurate data, and Power BI makes it accessible and actionable. If you need custom views or have questions about access, we are here to help.
All right, thanks, Jenna. Before we get to the polls, I'm actually going to take the screen and show you Workbench live and show you how it connects over to Connect. Okay, so if I upload a document through the Workbench, so for example, I have uploaded on the Community Impact Assessment tab, the CIA, which is Activity 2EN2. And you can see that I've uploaded it because it shows it here as a blue link that I can click on. If I want to access that through the Connect site instead, on my Connect site, there's two different ways to do that. The first is by going to Disciplines and going to Atlas Deliverables. All of the files that are uploaded to Atlas are available under this Atlas Deliverables topic, and it's organized in the same way that the Workbench tabs are organized. And so I can click on any of these and I can see the uploads here, and you can click on and see the properties, you can download them, same thing as you would do with any other files on Connect. You also can see them under the appropriate discipline. So in this case, if I'm under disciplines and I go to human environment and I go to community studies, here's that same file. And in this case, it has this as the upload person. So you can see that it was uploaded via Atlas. And the reason for that is because it's actually uploading it to that Atlas deliverables folder, and then it's making a copy of it here. And so the location, the owner is original in that Atlas deliverables location, but you have equal access in both locations. So really you have access in three places: the Workbench itself, the Atlas upload section, and then your normal discipline section where you would expect to find it. And so if you've uploaded it to Connect and then you go upload it a second time through Workbench, you're going to end up with it having two copies here. And because of that automatic naming convention, it will rename it and you'll have two copies with potentially a different name in the same place. The one you uploaded may or may not have all the right properties, but it definitely will have the right properties if you upload it through the Atlas Workbench. So we encourage you, once you're into that final version, to upload it through the Workbench only so that you just have one copy and it has all those properties and is in the right location and is accessible from Workbench, which has those qualitative questions, as well as through Connect, where all your other files are stored. Let me pause here before we go to the wrap up and ask if there's questions about Workbench itself. Okay. I will also point you to our training. I'm just going to navigate to that since I've got the screen. NCDOT Atlas Resources will bring you, and Tom had referenced this in his discussion, but if you go to the Atlas Resources page, this is where all of those files are that he mentioned. And we've got this training resources with an Atlas training site. And this is really good to know, both for yourself as well as if you have new staff come in, because if you have new staff, they're always welcome to come and look at the training modules that we have posted in order to get that overview. So right now we have comprehensive modules, and we also have a couple of recordings, including the previous Lunch and Learns, and today's will also be posted afterwards. And so I would encourage you to check out the Workbench tool comprehensive training, which just brings you through side by side some of those key features. And we also have similar comprehensive training for the other tools and modules on how to log in to the different tools. So getting to Workbench, let's go back through that now that I have the slide active. So in order to get to Workbench, you would need to log into a specific project on Connect. And you can log into projects through several different ways, of course, but if you're using Workbench, you likely already have access to Connect through your company or through DOT, and have access to a certain number of projects that your company is working on. If you're with DOT, you have access to all projects. And then once you're in this normal screen that you would do all your work in on Connect, go to the Atlas tools here at the bottom gray bar, or you can also access it down on the left side. And you can click on Atlas Workbench from here, and it'll ask you to put your credentials in again, and then you'll be able to get in. In this case, I'm already logged in, which is why I didn't do it. One other thing I'll point out when I'm here is that projects that have a spot ID, which going forward is going to be all projects, you're able to get to the spot link, the spot workbench link, through this upper left corner. So NCDOT has different Connect sites for the spot process compared to the pre-construction process. So the pre-construction process looks like this. Your spot process looks a little different. And each of them have a different version of the workbench. We didn't go through that in detail today, but I will show you just so that you can see what that looks like. These uploads and tabs, never mind. These uploads and tabs look, they're consistent with the uploads that are happening during the spot process. Well, I don't know why that particular project's offline, but let me try a different project and then just see if it's the problem.
And Teresa, we've got another question in the chat. What if I need to change the final document uploaded into Atlas?
Sure. If you need to redo that, you can just upload it over top of the previous upload and it'll replace it in the folder.
Yep, sorry, Teresa, I was in the process of sending that. So I have that in text
Great.
as well, Sherry, so if you wanted to do that.
Let's see. Somebody give me a project number that has a spot project associated with it. Yeah. Atlas Workbench. By the way, that pop-up that happens, super important information. I always encourage you to look at that. All right, we're going to assume that there's just something with my system or something in the background happening, but I would encourage you to go check that out. The nice thing about being able to quickly go back and forth between the pre-construction workbench and the spot workbench is that there's a lot of files that are created during the spot process. And especially if you're a consultant, it may be a different consultant working on the spot process compared to the pre-construction process. And so if you come in as the pre-construction consultant, you want to be able to quickly access all those files that were created, the alternatives files, cost estimates, the PSR, all of those things are going to be uploaded to Connect, uploaded to Atlas Workbench. It's a process that the feasibility study unit is supportive of and is encouraging all their consultants to do. So all the files that are created during stage one are going to be on the stage one under that spot ID Atlas Workbench page. And so you can access them through that page or through the Connect site. But this is just a really nice way to be able to bounce back and forth. And so both the uploads and those qualitative questions that are part of the spot process are going to be accessible to you as the pre-construction consultant. Of course, DOT has access to all the projects, regardless of your division or unit. Any other questions? All right, Tom, will you go back to the presentation?
Yep. Hold on 1 sec. Can you see my screen?
Yes, thank you. All right, so we are going to put two things in the chat. The first one is going to be the future ideas poll. And we would love to get your feedback on topics within Atlas that, oh, look at that, popped right up. Topics that might be helpful. And then after a few minutes, we will also give you the live link to the PDH credit poll. And if you responded other, we would love for you to put some extra information in the chat or send us an email later. It helps us make these trainings really as applicable as possible. All right, Katie, will you also put the PDH link in the chat, please?
And that form allows us to submit your attendance along with your professional number to the PDH board to get those credits for you.
All right, thank you all so much for joining us. We're going to hang out for about another 5 minutes, let people keep filling out the poll, and if you have any final questions, and we're still we're still resolving your login issues, feel free to hang out with us. If we didn't resolve any of the login issues today during the call, we'll follow up with you via email. The atlas@ncdot.gov is the email for ideas, questions, login issues, layer issues, anything that you come across. Again, atlas@ncdot.gov.
And I think we've got most everybody who has requested access. If they put their username in the chat, I believe we've got them all covered.
Great.
So if you
Thank you,
still don't
Katie and
have
Phoenix.
access, what's that?
Thank you, Katie and Phoenix.
Yeah. And two, I don't know if we want to share our new Workbench upload dashboard. Or someone, yeah, there's someone in the chat would like to see a demonstration.
Yeah, we
Teresa.
can definitely go through the screening. And let me show you one quick thing before we go through that demonstration. So the demonstration is on the screening. Well, do you mean a screening through the screening tool, or do you mean in the Workbench, Linda? Yes, we will post the recording to that training link. And here, let me put the link to that in the site. So the recording of today's presentation will be loaded onto this training site once we get it processed. So since we have a few minutes, for those who want to stick around and see a demonstration of the screening tool and how to use one of the map tools, that will take about 5 minutes, and we're happy to do that. I will begin by, I'll share my screen. Begin by pointing out a training that we just posted to our training site that is called How to Use the Atlas Screening Tool. And this is about a 5-minute video that shows the screen of somebody as he is creating the screening tool. So it doesn't have a lot of extra narrative. It has just sort of basic instructions to show as each step is going through it. So you can show that that's either for yourself or that's for coworkers who might like to get more familiar with the screening tool as well. All right, so in order to get to the screening tool, you can get to it the same way. You can also get to it through the Atlas resources page. The screening tool is one of our 2 map tools, and it is not project specific. So under Atlas resources, you can get to the data screening tool here, or if you're in a project, you can get to the data screening tool here. So in order to use the screening tool, this is something we encourage all projects to go through at the beginning of a process. It'll help you identify some of the major resources that may be in your area, and that can be helpful when it comes to scoping a project, deciding which consultant to use, deciding if it should be division or central, or even just figuring out whether it's a project that you want to do. It just gives you a really quick review. Of course, all of it's going to have to be vetted and much more information is going to have to be collected, but this is a really good first glimpse as to just what is happening in your project. So I'm going to just pick it by project area. You can also upload a study area if you have one created, or you can draw your own right there within a map. But if I already have a spot number or a step number, I can click the little search button. Here's my project. I'll click the next button. You can see it show up here on the map. I can make sure that, yes, that's my project corridor. Now, a template is a pre-selected group of layers. We have about 750 layers available in Atlas Map, and about 150 of them are available in the screening version of the map. And we have pre-selected groups of layers that are most helpful for different resources or for different purposes. And so if I use one that DOT has created, I can see this is the long list of pre-selected layers. And we would recommend for beginning a project, the initial issues identification template. It's got about 100 layers, and it's a great way to get a little bit of everything, both natural resource and community resources that might be something to consider or problematic for your project. In this case, I'm going to use a smaller one that we created for purposes of training because it just runs a little faster. Now I have my project, which is a line. If it's a line, it automatically will need some kind of buffer on there. And so I can put whatever size buffer I want, as long as the total buffered area is not more than 10 square miles. And what I'm seeing here is a checkbox next to all the layers that were in that pre-selected group. And I can also just add any other layers that I want. So if I want to add in a specific layer based on what I know about the area or something I'm interested in, this is always something that I can be modifying myself. Click next, you can name it. In this case, I had 11 layers that I'm screening against. That NWI was a big one, so that's going to take an extra minute. What this is going to do is give me a report, which is going to summarize the data for me. And I'm also going to be able to download the actual shape files that have been clipped to my study area. That's right. So if you select a template, then you can add on more by using that search. And if you wanted to remove any of the layers that were in that template, you could also do that by unchecking the boxes. Huck 8 is down at the moment. That's okay, good to know. And now I can download the report and I can download the actual files in 3 formats. Let's just start with the report to show you that. We are patient people in the Atlas group. So, as a side note, while we're waiting, so Atlas maps pull in layers that other agencies host. And there are a few of the DOT hosts that we've created ourselves or that we've brought in to host in-house, but most of them are hosted by other agencies, state, federal, local agencies. And so every time that you run the Atlas map, either the search tool or the screening tool, it's pulling those layers live from the owners. And what that means is that you're getting the most current version of those layers at any given time. It does also mean that once in a while the layers are down or something is happening on their server side. Usually that doesn't last very long, and we've got a team of people that are constantly monitoring for that to try to make sure the layers are as stable as possible. Feel free to email us at theatlas@ncdot.gov if you have any questions or have found any errors with layers as you're working through them, just to make sure that we are aware of that. Tom or Katie, do you have an Atlas screening report that you can just pull up real quick, since this thing is, I don't know what's happening with mine. We'll call it buckling under pressure.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's screened with all the folks on the call.
It is trying to do a lot.
Yeah, let me see if I've got one on my desktop here. Unless you've got one readily available, Tom.
I'm searching through my downloads to see if I can find one real quick.
We do this often enough. You'd think there would be one at the top.
Yeah, I've got one here. I'll share my screen.
You want to walk us through that, Katie?
Sure. Let me. So can you guys see my screen okay?
Yep.
All right, so it comes out as a PDF report. It gives you the date. There's this nice little inset map to kind of show you where it's at. All of this data comes with each report. You don't really have to select these particular layers. It lets you know the county, the size, whether you had a buffer. It also tells you which template you used. And as you can see for this one, I did not even use, I used the customize to kind of create a new one, but at the end I didn't save it. So it didn't really get saved. It has the ecoregions, the HUC 8, whether there's a riparian buffer or if you're in a Campbell County, also with any airports that might be within 4 miles of your study area. So this was a test, and I had selected this particular field, so it's not going to look like most of the ones you will receive because we have pre-selected which fields to choose in the downloads when you use the templates. And when you go to create those, you can set that field also. So for this one, I had set Parno as the attribute from the shapefile, the parcel data polygons layer. The feature count tells me how many polygons are actually within my study area. And for this one, we've got 794. The coverage and acreage, and then the nearest feature. This is a nice sort of add-on to let you know if there's something right outside of your study area. It's sometimes your study area maybe is a little bit arbitrary, and those things really could matter if it's like right outside your study area. So we've included this nearest feature, and I believe that goes up to a mile. And it's cataloged here kind of separately, so it's not directly in, but it is nearby. We'll just scroll through this. This is testing, but maybe not the best example. This is the report page that you'll get. Usually you won't get all those in between pages. It'll be 2 to 3, depending on how many layers are in your template or how many layers you select to screen. This final metadata page gives you the application version. Soon we have map coming out, which will be really nice. the date it was executed. So that way you can, if you go and save this in your project study area, you did this when you were scoping the project. You want to come back to that project, it's time to get started. You can pull this up and you can see exactly when you did this to kind of help. Okay, maybe it's time to rerun this sort of thing. A little disclaimer. It goes into how to read it, what the study area includes, the layer name, the field name, feature count, what all those mean, which I kind of went over earlier. NA indicates that the calculation requested cannot be completed. So that's different. NA is definitely different than 0. Total coverage, lets you know how many linear feet or acreage. And again, nearest feature, we just went over that. This here is really helpful, especially if you see an error, kind of like Teresa did when she ran hers. She got a sort of temporary indication that maybe one of the layers wasn't going to screen. That will also pop up down here. So availability and the parcels, and it's green, no problem. But it, like the one Teresa ran, if there was an issue, it'll show up down here. It'll let you know what layer it was and kind of what the issue was. And that way you can either run the whole screening again or just that layer. Because sometimes, there are 700 layers in there. A good bit of them are connecting out through the web, pulling that information back through. They may not always be available. We don't have too many problems, but once in a while you might run into an error. And that's just to kind of let you know that it's a good idea to probably rerun that screening so you can actually see what comes up for that particular layer of interest. But in a nutshell, that's the screening report. Again, this is a PDF you could just save and tuck away in your project folder or upload in a Workbench.
Yeah,
So
and
with
in
that,
fact, we're moving towards having this be a deliverable, maybe for the scoping process, maybe on LAT projects. Several different disciplines are using them now regularly, and you may start to see them in some of our guidance documents. And speaking of guidance documents, we're also working with the business units to update guidance documents to refer to Atlas so that there's just more consistency across the board in messaging, when to use it, which parts of the tools to use, when to use them for deliverables, that kind of thing. So always working towards consistency in process and tools within the department, as you all know. All right, thanks for the questions. Thanks for
I'll
the
share one more
time.
thing real quick here, Teresa, if that's okay.
Great. Yeah.
This is our new dashboard that we've created for the Workbench uploads. Currently, this is a document on the Connect site that Teresa showed earlier. I believe there's a link in the chat for this, and it kind of lets you filter through your discipline to figure out, or your PDN activity. You can filter that way too, to kind of know what those uploads are, whether they're required, secure, or set for external collaboration. So this is a nice little tool to help you figure out exactly what those documents are, the naming conventions, what all is needed for that. And this hopefully will be live on the page next week. It's not currently, but we do have this in the form of a standards PDF document currently.
All right. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.